It's day 6 of our Egypt trip, and we're heading into the Temple of Edfu. Edfu is located on the west bank of the Nile between Luxor and Aswan. Outside the temple is a bazaar with hawkers or street vendors selling all sorts of tourist paraphernalia. For these hawkers, no does not mean no. It just means they haven't tried hard enough. The advice from our guide Adham was just ignore them. Speaking to them only encourages them more. I've seen them chase people back to the bus and bang on the bus windows to get a sale. You can see a hawker engage Nev and offer the hand to shake. He will then hand over a business card in a sec. And then he will point out his store. He will now give Nev a gift, just remembering that nothing is for free in Egypt. As we exit the temple on our way out, this hawker will remember Neville and it will expect him to purchase from his store.
The internet was playing up last night.
Okay, Habibi, so
I've been trying to do it.
here we are. Edfu. Edfu is the name, how we pronounce it, or how people start to pronounce it nowadays. The ancient name is Edfu. Edfu. Why are people starting to pronounce as Edfu? Edfu means revenge, or the land of the revenge. From who? What's going on here? So, in the mythology, we have more than a conflict that happened between the gods. And those conflicts, those wars between the gods, was the reason that the father of the gods, the king of the gods, decided to ascend back to the sky and take all the gods with him and to send the pharaohs instead to rule. So they believe that the gods used to be the ones that ruled Egypt. Till the war of the gods started, this is when they all ascended back to the sky. And then they started to send the pharaohs as the sons of the gods to rule instead of them. Let's say this is one of the stories in the mythology, how to empower the image of the pharaoh, the king, in the front of the gods, as the son of the gods. One of those conflicts between the gods was between the two brothers. Osiris, his brother Set. Osiris and Set. Osiris used to be the king of Egypt. Osiris, the king of the underworld. First was the king of Egypt. He was the one that ruled Egypt. And he had plans to give the throne of Egypt next to his son, Horus, the child, the falcon god of the sky. But his brother Set, he had a different plan for himself. He planned for himself to become the next king of Egypt after Osiris. So, when he found out about the plans of Osiris, he decided for him to become the king, there is only one way. To get rid of his brother before he passed the throne to Horus. So he tried twice. The first time he failed. The first time he just invited Osiris and some others for a big meal. And there was a big sarcophagus on display made out of gold, and he said that this sarcophagus is going to be a gift for whom can ever fit inside. And it was custom made to fit only Osiris, and he handpicked the others not to fit inside. After they enjoyed the meal, everyone is trying to get this beautiful gift because this is about the afterlife, the eternal life. No one can. Osiris goes to try, he fits exactly, so he closes and seals the sarcophagus through him in the night. His wife, Isis, flies all over, searching for the sarcophagus, managed to locate him, and he was still alive. But by the time she found Osiris, the powers of Set was growing really strong. So they decided, okay, we're gonna live in peace, hiding among the people, away from the evil of Set. But someone told Set about the location of Osiris. He organized an expedition, captured Osiris, killed him, cut him into 14 beasts, through each beast in one of the main cities of ancient times. Disease flies all over to collect the pieces. She managed to collect 13, got Anubis, mummified him, and this is when Osiris had become the king of the underworld. So they consider him the first to cross to the west. The first to cross to the west. So he had become the king of the underworld. The missing part was missing in Abydos, this city in Middle Egypt. This is where they built a tomb over there, the Osiris. And this is what made Abydos the most holy place on earth for the ancient Egyptians. As we said before, like Mecca for Islam or the Vatican for Christianity. Because of the tomb of Osiris. So now, Set killed his brother. And we have Horus, the child, who just lost his father and his crown. So, momentarily, he just decided to take his revenge. But he was still young, not powerful enough to defeat Set. So he lost the first battle, and he lost his left eye in this battle. So this is when the eye of Horus had become a symbol of medicine and protection, the widget eye. And they started to make an eye out of gold to give as an offering to Horus in return of the one that he lost. His mother is he sent him to the north to Nile Delta, this is the domain area of Hathor, to become under the protection of Hathor until he grown up strong enough and came back to retaliate, to take his revenge from him. So this is where it happens. Here, where Horus won his battle. This is where Horus managed to capture and kill his uncle Set and cut him into so many pieces as he did to his father and gets back his father. So this is where the name of this area came from, Edfu. The temple that you are looking at is one of the temples built during the Greco-Roman era. Built during the Greco-Roman era. So the beginning of the construction here dates back to the year 232 BC. So this comparing to Karnak is a baby. This comparing to Karnak is about maybe 1,100 years newer than Karnak and Luxor. Plus, this one was plus this temple is the most well preserved in all over Egypt. This temple till the late 18s was completely covered under the ground. Was completely covered under. If you look to the street level outside, you can see outside these walls. You can see the houses is higher. It was all on top of this, so it was completely covered under the center. This is what helped to preserve this temple. So this is why this is the most well preserved in all over Egypt. Outside here we have this room that we call the Mamizi room. This is a room that tells about the child Horus that carries the whole story from the beginning to the revenge. So the Romans, why they built temples, or why they ordered the ancient Egyptians to build more temples? For the worshipping of ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. Why didn't they build temples for the Roman mythology? The one who did this is Alexander the Great. When Alexander came, the capital was Luxor. By the time Alexandria was built, by the time of Ptolemy the 13th, he moved the capital that used to be Luxor to become Alexandria. When he did that move, he lost control in the southern part of Egypt. So in order to control back the population, in order to control back the south, Alexander the Great traveled to the priests of Karnak temple and made an agreement with them that he's going to build more temples or do restorations to the temples in order to satisfy the priests, filling the buckets of the priests with money for them to help him again to control the population through the temple. So this is why even his successors kept the same agreement with the priests. So this temple here was built for that reason. for ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses, but the reason behind it is to control the population again in the south. Plus, he dug out the story of the conflict, because this is from the ancient Egyptian mythology. This is like 1,000 years before Alexander and the Romans. He dug out this story just to give to the public, to tell something else, to tell that we're going to take the side of Horus against Set, because Horus and Set, this is like, it represents the infinity war between good and bad. So we are taking the side of good against bad. We are supporting Horus in his revenge against his uncle Set. So he brought the story again and he cut the whole story from the beginning to the end, to the victory, to show the support that they're going to give to Horus in this battle against the evil god. Shall we? At the first pile now, looking at the facade of the temple, we see the propaganda as it should be, or as 90% of the ancient Egyptians and the architectures did it. So, lower scenes and upper scenes. Lower scenes in both sides is the same. So, here from left to right. The first one to the left is going to be the king, standing, holding. One sitting down, kneeling down like this, doing that. So he's holding like a bunch of his enemies from the hair, grabs them from the hair, and he's going to smash them to the front of the main god of this temple. So we have Horus here, the falcon, the main god of the temple, and you can see it in both sides. Same thing. Upper scenes is going to be the king giving the offerings to the triad of this temple and different gods, as we said before, to scare everyone from the idea of being enemies of the kings, otherwise this is what's going to happen to you, and then to reassure everyone that those kings is in a good relation with the gods, is going to bring good among all of us. So this is the reason of the propaganda, started 2690 BC. We've seen this carved in a small scale at the Narmer Palette at the Egyptian Museum, the king who did the unification. He did the same for the king of the north. He was standing, killing him, like that. Then, to the right and to the left from the gate, there is two statues for Horus, the falcon god of the sky, made out of grey granites. Grey granites. Grey granites in Egypt come from the middle of the eastern desert. The statue to the left represents Horus as a god. Horus, the falcon god of the sky, the lord of the air, with his high priest stands to the front of him. Small figure, so the high priest stands to the front of him. The one to the right represents Horus as the god. As the king of Egypt. So he's wearing the double crown. So this is Horus to announce to everyone coming to this temple, I'm the king now. I won my war. I had my revenge. I'm wearing the double crown. I'm the king of upper and lower. Then, those mud breaks here is the original mud break walls. The rest is, this is just new. But this part here, you can tell the difference between the pattern. This one was built, the way this one was built, and the rest. This is the original mud break walls. And the enclosure walls of the temples was not just fortifications. Also, it used to represent the idea, or it represents the idea of the beginning of creation, or the beginning of life. And the ancient Egyptians believed life, there was nothing but water, the primeval water. And the beginning of life is when a mountain came from the middle of the water carrying the first two lives known and known, the two frogs. So, if you look to the mud breaks here, follow the mud break line. You see the mud break doesn't go in a straight line. The building is not it takes a wavy shape. You see it? So the mud break walls, the enclosure walls surrounding the temple represents the primeval water. For the temple, in the middle, to be the mountain that came from the middle of the water carrying life, the beginning of creation. This was always, not just as a fortification, but this was always the idea that the temple plus the enclosure wall represents. This way, please. The door fits here. Here, see the rose garment here? See this? This is how have a small wheel down below. You can push, slide, open, and close the doors. Two doors. Some doors are at the Egyptian storage area at the Egyptian Museum. They said that they're going to put some doors at the Grand Museum on display. I haven't been yet to the Grand Museum after they opened like more galleries. I'm not sure. Bathroom. Bathroom is going to be, you see the upstairs? So now we are standing at the open court of Edfu Temple. And as we said, this is one of the temples built during the Greek-Roman era. So we can see now the influence of the Roman architecture to the ancient Egyptian architecture, especially when it comes to the capitals of the pillars. This is the first thing that you see, and you can tell it is different than Luxor Temple and Karnak Temple. The capitals, because ancient Egyptians, the capitals used to be one of two things, lotus or papyrus, to represent north and south. Papyrus is the kingdom of north, lotus is the south. But here you can see currency decorations, you can see currency capitals, the famous Roman capitals. So it includes sometimes papyrus and lotus, sometimes it's palm trees, sometimes it's flowers. So it is not to represent north and south anymore. Then, the Romans did not worship any of the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. So they wanted to make sure that when the people comes to the temple, you will not see what's really happening inside. Because if this is built during, let's say, Ramses II, we should be standing here and we should see through the whole temple. So we can watch. As a public, we come here, we give the offerings, the royal families and the priests, they take it inside, purifying, burn some incense and give the offerings to the gods inside the shrine. None of the Romans does this. So they started those screen walls between the pillars to block the view of what's inside the temple, what's going on inside the temple. Later on in your free time, you remember the cartouche, right? There is hundreds of empty cartouches left behind at the walls with no names inside. The reason is, for more than 40 years, the Romans were fighting each other, overthrowing each other, killing each other. Through those 40 years, the workers and artisans kept building without knowing who is who. And maybe someone came for a few months and then been killed and someone else came. So they kept building and leave those empty cartouches behind till they know the name of the king. So each king used to carve two names at the walls or at his statue, coronation name and birth name. For the Ptolemies, for the Romans, the ancient Egyptians came with this idea. They give them a title that comes out from their name, which is Ptolemies. So the coronation name for all of them have become Ptolemies. What does Ptolemies mean for the ancient Egyptians? Foreign ruler. Foreign ruler. So the coronation name for all of them, Ptolemies. So they're going to start to fill one of the two cartouches with Ptolemies everywhere. Foreign ruler. Whenever they know who is he, which one is ruling, they started to look what he was famous by, what was his nickname. So, for example, Philomator, the Roman emperor, was famous by the beloved of his mother. So it's going to be Ptolemies, the beloved of his mother. Euryctes was the good shepherd. So it's going to be Ptolemies, the good shepherd. So this is why sometimes we have the names of those kings here and we don't know which one exactly he is. Because we don't know all the nicknames for all of those Roman emperors. We know only few. So some stay listed, which Ptolemies did this part of this temple. So as we said, till the late 18th, this was completely covered under the ground there. When it was found by coincidence, by the way. A farmer was riding his donkey on top of the first pile, and you see the two towers and the gap in between. This gap falls down. So this was the discovery, but totally by coincidence. And then it took them years to be excavated as we see it now. The moment, or by the time we made it all the way where we are standing now, we started to see this room here and another one over there. This room was like the library of the temple, where they kept all of the papyrus that used to count the floods and the taxes that people make with rain for this agricultural land, and some of the war expeditions and things like that. So some of the orders from the kings to the priests, or some of the prayers that they raised to the gods and the demands of the people. So hundreds of papyrus scrolls that have been found in this room. So it was like the library of the temple. And on the other side, this room, we found vases made out of gold. This is the one that was used for the purifications of the kings and the royal family. So these are the vases that they fill with the holy water to do the purifications of the kings. So this was like the consecration room of the temple. Then looking at the ceilings, you can see most of the original and of course some restorations that have been done. Two colonnade halls. This is the big one. The next one is a little bit smaller. This temple does have another level on top of this hall. There is another level up there. You can see two levels. One on top of the next small colonnade hall, and another one that goes on top of this. But of course, the second floor is off limits. As you can see, the ceiling is not in a perfect condition. But when we go there, I'll show you the entrance of the exit to the staircases that goes to the second floor. One of it, from this side, one of it goes to the second floor in a circular way, or a semicircular way. And the other one dives in a straight line. All the reliefs and the carvings around the one going up is around the one circling up is everyone is going up. It's like an order. Use this one to go up. And then on the other side, the one that takes the straight line, everyone is coming down. So it's like an order. We use this one to come down. Any ideas why?
Passion for each other. We've seen that in seen that initially when they put swords and things, fighting armies. No. You know what I mean? Horses going down the other one.
Nope. Who's the main god of this temple? Yes?
Horses.
Horus. The falcons. When they fly, they circle up. You never see a falcon running.
Never seen a falcon.
So falcons, when they fly, they circle up. They come down, they just spread the wings, dive straight down. Hunting or reaching back to the nest.
Their brains must have been going every single seriously.
So this is why the staircase was built like this. For the falcon to come out from his shrine to fly to the sky, and then to dive down back from his shrine as he naturally does. So this is even, as we said, as you said, they never miss any detail. Everything was done as it should be.
Had good brains.
No Facebook, no WhatsApp, no
No
Instagram.
wasting time.
Okay. So where we are standing now, the Romans are the ones who decided to build this inner walls out of sandstones so they can fortify themselves inside as foreign rulers, feeling that any time Egyptians can flip against them. So this is a fortification. Plus, they came out with tunnels and pits under the ground to be used as escape in case they fail to fortify themselves. The chiseling and the defacing happens when Rome took Christianity as a religion. So the Roman built and the Roman damaged. Then, this wall here, from all the way, from down there, all the way to where we are, all the seams covering, this wall is the last battle between Horus and Set. So Horus is a pharaoh. Set is a hippopotamus. Set is a hippopotamus. So he's going to be trying to capture the hippo all the way from there. You see the boats carved at the walls there? You see it? It's going to be scenes of Horus trying to capture the hippo from the water till he managed to capture the hippo. This one here, you see Horus standing on top of the hippopotamus. You see it? So this when he came back with victory, it's here on his hand, he's standing on top of the hippo. The hippo is facing Osiris, who used to be his brother, but now this is the god of death. So this is what he's facing. And then those are Hathor and Isis, and Tus, the god of knowledge and wisdom. Here is Horus again with the hippo, and you can see he shows how great is Horus, how big is Horus, to how tiny is Set, which is in reality the hippo is of course much more bigger than the falcon, but this is just to show how great is God comparing to how tiny is even. Then eventually here, this is what happened to the hippo. So you see the biggest one. You see the knife on his hand. You see it? So the hippo, but not as he did to his brother. So when Set killed his brother, he cut him into 14 pieces. Each piece in one of the cities. There was a chance to protect these pieces. Mummified Osiris, he had become the king of the underworld. Horus wanted to make sure that this would never happen to Set. So he cut him into little tiny pieces. So this pocket, cut him into little tiny pieces, fill him in buckets, and we feed him to the ducks. So each few ducks is going to eat few little tiny pieces, fly in a different direction. It's impossible to get them back together, mummify him to have another chance. Yes, ultimate risk. So eventually this is what happened to Set. So this is the end. And the one in the middle is the high priest. You can see him like holding something, he's reading a prayer, making sure also that this evil is...
Because Horus is getting
تكتبي تكست انا بس ناس so some